Welcome everybody to the Ops and Volunteer Orientation Meeting. I'm Josh Burkus, the Ops lead for this Kubernetes Contributor Summit, with Shadows Ray Lejano and Carlos Panado. And we're going to be going over a bunch of things that we're going to be doing as volunteers and as ops. Normally, our main orientation meeting happens on the morning of the Contributor Summit, early in the morning. But that will not happen this time, for reasons that will become clear as I go through the logistics. So with that, let me go ahead and share my slides. And here we go. Okay, everybody got the slide presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, a few things to go over. Schedule, the outlines of the schedule, and I don't mean the session schedule here, I mean the schedule of operations. Venue, how we're going to coordinate everything, the various roles, and then any questions that you might have. So here's the general schedule of operations. First of all, on Sunday afternoon at 4:30 p.m., we are going to have a venue walkthrough with Brienne from the CNCF staff. If any of you are going to be in Salt Lake City at Sunday at 4, please join us for that, because that'll be the first time that we really get a good idea of what the space looks like. We had videos and stuff, but it doesn't, it never does justice. You do need to, well, actually, we'll talk about it more in a minute. 7:45 a.m. is going to be early check-in for some of the volunteers. 8 a.m. is regular registration. Then we have the actual summit from 8 to 5:30, and then the social from 6 to 8. Some details here. Again, if you can join us for the walkthrough, that would be great. Because we are being led in by hand by a member of the staff, you need to arrive on time for this, because if you arrive late, the doors will simply be locked and there's nobody there to let you in. I mean, if you do, just miss it, pop up on Slack, but no promises. Meet at the East registration entrance, and I'll show you where that is in a minute. And some of us will probably go for drinks or something after the walkthrough. Early arrival. So an interesting about this Kubernetes Contributor Summit is registration doesn't open until 8 a.m. on Monday, which is the same time that attendees start arriving. So we have a little bit of a workaround, which is if you have signed up for one of the staffing positions in the very first time slot, you should meet me and Brienne at East registration at 7:45 a.m. and we will give you a sticker, and we'll be walked up to the summit area without your badge. And then after you do your initial shift, you'll go down and actually pick up your badge. For everyone else, please go ahead and wait for registration to open, register, get your badge, everything else. This is just for the people who have to hold down the very first positions, where the timing doesn't work out. But do try to arrive at registration right at 8 a.m. so you can get your badge and get in ahead of most folks who will be a little bit later. Once you actually get to the summit area, there's morning check-in. There's a staff room, which I have just been told has been moved. So I'll show you what it is again. For the staff room, there's going to be a clipboard for you to sign in that you're there. We have embroidered hats as staff swag. These are only for staff and volunteers. So please don't grab extras because we have them just for the staff and volunteers. For anybody who signed up to volunteer or on staff before October 10th, their hat will be personalized with their GitHub handle. If you volunteered later, you still get a hat, but it doesn't have your GitHub handle on it. And also, if you're not part of that early group, pick up a staff sticker and stick it to your badge. And the reason for the staff stickers, by the way, is we're trying to give ways for the conference center staff to recognize which ones of us are volunteer staff. And you might find it too warm to wear the hat the whole time. And so the sticker is backup for that. Plus, you can leave any of your personal gear that you don't want to carry around in your staff room. So if you have a big, heavy backpack, for example, you can leave that in the staff room. Although, do keep in mind that the staff room will not be staffed the whole time. So if you leave personal stuff in the staff room, maybe leave it under the table. Okay. Then for the summit day, we have our whole volunteer schedule, which a lot of you have seen, and I can go over later. Some people are still signing up to fill in some of these holes. And based on requirements, I may want to swap some people around. For example, after talking to staff, it looks like actually we are going to have more people entering through the door warden 2 position. So if I may ask Savitha and Paul to actually move positions and move over to door warden 2 instead of 1. And for any slots where, for example, we don't have both a bell ringer and a runner, we'll combine those positions. But this is sort of the schedule. Just to be clear, a few of you just, is that these black boxes exist because these are meant to be the time blocks. The idea is that shifts are mostly about an hour. So if you have to do half of a time block for some reason, let me know. And then after that, there's the social. The social team is in charge of the social. Some of the staff are volunteering to help run it, but none of the volunteers are needed for that. Obviously, all of you can go to the social just for you to know in case you're asked to help due to something is some of our contributors show up only for the social because of when their flights get in. It is like the Contributor Summit itself for registered Kubernetes contributors only. And importantly, for all of you here, you need to bring your KubeCon badge and a legal ID that they will recognize, which means either US driver's license or international passport, and does not include things like a passport card or an electronic passport. So let's take a look at the venue. I already need to update this map. But this is the second floor of the Salt Palace, which is why all the room numbers begin with 2. There are quite a number of ways. The Salt Palace is like a giant L shape, and we're at the corner of the L, the bend in the elbow. There are quite a number of ways to get from the first to the second floor. Now, the nice thing about this Contributor Summit is nobody else should be doing anything other than setup, and that should be only like actual crew doing setup on the second floor on Monday. So there is no reason for anybody to be attending any other event there, which does make things easier for us. But just because there is no reason doesn't mean that people won't show up. And so we have to be ready for them. So I'm going to go over, Some of this and some of it has actually already changed, and I will send you updated maps later. This is the East registration area. So again, a little past the bend in the elbow here, where there's apparently a visitor center and the gift shop. The East registration is the one that we should be using as staff, etc. If you are coming from the Hyatt or hotels next to it, you're actually going to be coming from this direction. And for that reason, we're expecting a bunch of the attendees to also come from this direction. So some of the other rooms, I have just been informed that the dock sprints in the staff room have been moved from 253 to 257 over here. So they're no longer over here. They're over here in 257. Which is easier for some reasons and harder for others. But so I will send out an updated map showing that. Code of conduct reports, the CNCF ombudsman was going to be stationed here in 252B, right over here. And we'll go over conduct reports later. 254 is where we have the general sessions, the ones for all attendees, like the intro session and the steering AMA, etc. 255 over here is actually a very large space that is going to be subdivided into 5 spaces. And that's going to include 3 breakout rooms, the lunch coffee hangout room. See, 3 breakout rooms? Yeah, 3 breakout rooms in the lunch coffee hangout room. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 4 rooms in total.
Yeah. I don't have a layout for that, but they'll be labeled, right? So lunch coffee breakout room is 255 BC. The breakouts are 255A, 255D, and 255EF. And they'll be labeled. And then over here, 257 is going to be divided into 257A and 257B. 257, one of those is going to be the dock sprints, and the other one is going to be the staff room over here. So it's a second map, which is actual volunteer stationing, which I'm going to adjust slightly based on the move of that room. Again, this is main East registration. We have the 2 door warden positions. So door warden 2 was going to be in the middle of the space, but if we're not using 253, door warden 2 can be in this curved hallway, which is a much easier space to control. Plus, it puts them right outside 254 if they want to watch the stuff that's going on in 254 and not miss it, which is nice. And door warden 1, we're going to have to see what the space between the lobby and the upper mezzanine looks like. I've looked at the video. It's very hard to visually make sense of. So we'll decide on the day of exactly where door warden 1 is going to hang out. Because you may notice that there are a bunch of escalators. Oops. There are a bunch of escalators and elevators here. And as a result, people can come up in all kinds of places. We just have to make sort of a best effort. In the first hour of the morning, us, as leads are going to be helping out the door wardens for that reason. The dock sprint vols, which are run by SigDocs, will be over here in 257. And then all of the other volunteers are going to be around 255, right? So we'll have 1 room proctor in the big room, because that's a session room, and so we need a room proctor. And then the other 3 room proctors at any given time when there are sessions are going to be in 255 in A, E, F, and D. The bell ringer and the runner should mostly hang around the BC, the hangout area. Well, except that the bell ringer knows where they have to be wet, right? unless the positions get combined, right? Because the bell ringer is basically there for the break times. And so they can actually go into whatever session as long as they are out in BC and the lobby area, et cetera, between sessions. So wait,
Josh,
any
sorry
questions about the space before I go on? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I did. I didn't want you to. I saw you go on.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, hold on. I had a quick question about the day and the door warden side of things.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, the pre-events for the all access pass are happening on Tuesday, not Monday. Are there
Correct.
other events happening at the center on Monday?
No, no, there are not. Right.
Okay.
And I'll talk about that more when we flip over to the door warden role.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, so this will be easier from a random foot traffic perspective than, say, Paris was.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about how we're going to coordinate between us.
I think
So first
Mike Morris has his hand up as well.
Oh, go ahead.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry, I've got full screen of the slide, so I can't see
Oh,
hands.
all right. Yeah, I was just curious for the runner for the 255 BC runner. Are they staffed in 255 during the opening sessions too for the first like hour and a half when everything's
Yeah, no, actually for that, the runner should probably be by 254, right?
Okay.
It's gonna be where the people are. Because the important thing for the runner is that other volunteers need to be able to find the runner.
Yep. Sounds good.
So yeah, so the runner should be wherever people are hanging out. So okay.
I think WashingCon is in the Salt Palace that does list that they have their keynotes, breakout session, solution showcase on Monday, November 11th. I think that's not a CNCF co-located event, but they are bundled together somehow.
Yeah, but I think they are in the hotel. They are not at the Salt Palace. I think the WasmCon is at the
Okay, I just looked at the webs.
Hyatt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but they
Never
are
mind
at
then.
the Hyatt, which is why we have to expect people to come over from the Hyatt.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah. So no, it's an important question, right? Because stuff changes, and if people get moved around, okay. So everybody has been added to the KCS NA Ops private Slack channel. This does mean on Monday, I'm going to ask you all to have Slack notifications turned on, even if you turn them off the rest of the week so that your coworkers don't bug you. But Slack is the only media that we know that all of our volunteers already have. So we have, we have that Slack channel. That's going to be a very good way for you to coordinate with the other volunteers to say, oh, hey, I need the runner to do this. This is going on. Somebody has this question, etc. So please don't disable your Slack notifications on the Kubernetes Slack, until Tuesday at the earliest. And if possible, actually set yourself on that channel to get notified on any new posts in the channel. We also have phone numbers, and I'm going to send these to you in a different way because I don't have Carlos's phone number in here. But we're going to give you the phone numbers for all three of us. For me and Ray, you can text us. All me, Ray, and Carlos are also on Signal. So if you have Signal, you can reach us that way. Don't text Carlos because international roaming. One of the other roles of the runner, obviously, is that if other communication mechanisms fail, you can find the runner and ask them to try to find somebody else for you, which is one of the jobs of the runner. Some general thoughts on sharing different kinds of problems that happen. If you are running late for some reason, you can announce it in the Slack, or If for some reason that's not reasonable, you can notify one of the leads by phone, flash signal. If you aren't going to make it to the summit at all, same thing. If you need to coordinate with other summit volunteers, that's going to be Slack. If you need the runner, you could use Slack, or go to where the runner is stationed. And then if somebody has a question, post that on Slack. Well, you can forward questions to the leads. You're better off posting them in Slack, because other volunteers or summit staff may know the answer and be able to answer you faster. So let's talk a little bit about dealing with code of conduct stuff, because as the volunteers on the scene, people are likely to come to you if there is a conduct problem, and then you need to know what to do about it. So if somebody comes to you and they say they want to report a conduct violation, then schedule permitting, you want to walk them over to 252B, where Colleen, the staff ombudsman, is stationed, and turn them over to her to take the report. If you can't leave your station because you're, say, room proctor for a session that's going on, then contact one of the leads, so me, Ray, or Carlos, or the runner, to do that, walking them over to Colleen. If you witnessed what happened, then you'll want to report that to Colleen as well. Although, again, depending on your volunteer duties, maybe not at the same time. Also, at the summit, both I and Jeremy Ricard will be at the summit. We're both on Code of Conduct Committee. If anything is really messy and complicated, you might want to get one of us too. But most likely going to be running anybody over to Colleen. However, it's also possible that you're going to witness something that's extremely disruptive. There's a lot of politics around this particular KubeCon. You might have noticed that the US had rather a big event yesterday, today, that is still ongoing, and that people are going to be very concerned about. Plus, there's the issues around trans rights and everything else in Utah. So there may be some conduct violations related to those things. And if these things are very disruptive, it's not a matter of walking somebody over to Colleen. You need to stop the disruption. And so the answer there is, don't try to do it yourself. Instead, try to get one of the leads or one of the senior staff. And the leads include me, Ray, and Carlos for leading ops, Sean and Marlo as leads of the overall contributor summit, and Jeremy Ricard as Kubernetes Code of Conduct Committee. So get one of those people, or get Brienne or Colleen from the CNCF staff to handle the disruption. If somebody's being actually threatening, as in like threats of violence, then if security is in any way available, get those before you try to get volunteers or staff, right? Now, they may not be around. You may need to get one of us anyway in order to get security. But if there's a security person in the hallway, then just grab them if somebody's actually being threatening. Any questions on that? Okay. There is a retro doc, and I linked it there. And again, I will send out by email and Slack links and everything. The retro doc contains things that work, things that didn't work, stuff to remember for next time, interesting questions you got. Please add your bits to it, as you are a person on the scene helping us run the summit. And so you, in your individual position, will see things nobody else sees. And as a result, we want to capture that for future maintainer summit teams so that we can be ready in the future.
Hey, Josh, can we pin that in the volunteer channel so that It's readily available
Yep.
for everyone.
Yeah, all this stuff and our phone numbers and everything else. Yep. Okay. So now let's talk about the roles a little bit. So we had some questions of the door warden, right? So we're gonna have 2 door wardens stationed at both of the places where people are the most likely to come in. The door wardens are there to check badges along with conference center staff. There will be conference center staff there checking badges. However, conference center staff are unable to deal with weird situations. And historically, we've had a lot of weird situations around the Contributor Summit. Particularly, we have yet to have a KubeCon, where all of the Contributor Summit badges printed correctly. Particularly when people are signed up for multiple colos and the Contributor Summit. The badge, sometimes the Contributor Summit falls off the badge. So the door warden is going to be there with a clipboard. The clipboard is going to include a full list of everyone who is registered. So if somebody shows up with a badge that does not say Contributor Summit, you can actually say, nope, this person is actually at the Contributor Summit. Regardless of what their badge says, hand them a sticker. We have similar little badge stickers for people who are registered, and that avoids having to recheck anybody ever again if they have the sticker. Some people shouldn't be in the Contributor Summit, right? Because if we have WasmCon going on in the Hyatt, people will wander over from WasmCon thinking that they're looking for refreshments or additional WasmCon sessions or whatever. The other thing that happens a lot is people show up on Monday without specific plans, without, knowing anything that's going on, and they're bored and they look and they say, oh, Contributor Summit free event, I'll just go to that. And so, if we get the chance, we want to very politely explain the rules for the Contributor Summit and turn those people away. In some cases, people are going to be late, and they will need information on the session that they are late for. Like, for example, speakers who flew in that morning and need to find their session immediately. And for that reason, you will have a printout of the schedule on the clipboard. And if there are questions about somebody's registration, etc., Savitha, who is in charge of Contributor Summit registration, will be around and is in the Slack and can answer specific questions about anybody's registration where it's not clear. One of the other things that you will also get is a bunch of the Kubernetes founders chronically do not remember to register for the summit. Generally, we'll let them in anyway, but you will need to clear that over Slack, and we'll probably need to give them a sticker. For anyone else, send them down to East registration, which is very close to the venue anyway. So it's not like they have to go a long ways.
Also, I double checked, and apparently WasmConf moved location. So WasmConf is now also in the Salt Palace on level 3.
Ah, okay.
So we might run into more WasmConf people than expected.
Oop. Okay. So. Okay. They have to come through level 2 to get to level 3, don't they?
I guess so.
Okay.
I mean, maybe the other entrance is nearer than to the, but I don't know. But I think that they will move through level 2.
Okay. The
registration, they have West Temple entrance east, and we have the same, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, then it's basically.
Yeah, although most of them will be coming in on West. So, but I mean, we don't know where attendees are going to be registering. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, bell ringer. Station 255 BC between sessions, except during general sessions in the hallway outside 254. The purpose of the bell ringer is literally that. I have, in fact, bells at the bell ringer for the bell ringer. And the goal of the bell ringer is to remind people when sessions are starting, because people get caught up chatting in the hallway or at lunch or at coffee breaks, and they lose track of the time. And plus, you'll be given announcements from the leads to also shout out. This will include things like, final voting on the conference, and changes of room and anything else. And so your role as bell ringer is between sessions, and in the first couple of minutes after a session starts, to wander around and make sure people are aware of things, and to ring the bell and shout at them. Also, like any other staff stationed in the hallway, because you've got the staff hat and stuff, people are going to come up to you and ask questions about what's going on. And the bell ringer will sub for the runner if the runner's not available, because, for example, they've run to another part of the conference center. So speaking of the runner, stationed in 255 BC, except again during the morning general sessions when they should be outside or in the back of 254. The runner is there primarily to go get people when it becomes necessary to do so. For example, you may need to run down to registration and clarify something. We may really need to get security and not have anybody available in the hallway, and they're not responding on the radio. We may need to get extra people from conference AV, and we might need to get Colleen from the conduct room or take somebody to the conduct room. The other thing the runner does is sub in if somebody's not available. Somebody doesn't make it to the summit, whatever, we need a room proctor or whatever, we may pull the runner and say, hey, room proctor now. And then room proctors. Oh, and by the way, so all of these roles, door warden, bell ringer, runner, these are all what we call our hallway volunteer positions. And Carlos is in charge of the hallway vols, the hallway volunteers. And so if you are a hallway volunteer, and you have a question and you need to clarify something, or you're going to be late or whatever, Carlos is the first person you should ping about it. Ray is in charge of the room proctors. Do you want to explain the room proctor stuff?
Yeah. So room proctors, there's several types of rooms as well. The general sessions, SIG meetings, and conference rooms. In general, is to make sure that the AV is working okay, that the speaker shows up as well and on time. And kind of depending if it's on a conference session as well, make sure there's a note taker as well. Also make sure that there's not one person being a monopoly with the speaking time as well for the conference session. The SIG meeting might be a little different since it is SIG meeting, so I will let the SIG co-chairs or SIG leads run that meeting. There will also be a little handbook or a little one-page notes on some of the tasks for the various room proctors as well. That would be on the clipboards in the rooms, and just to make sure that the sessions start on time, ends on time as well. You might on the smaller room, you might want to introduce, or you should introduce the speaker and the session as well. But I don't think you need to do that for the bigger room.
Yeah, no, the big room is going to be run. Pardon me a moment. The general sessions in the big room will be run by the content team and the leads for the summit. So if you are room proctor for, say, one of the morning sessions or one of the closing sessions, then you're really there as support for AV, and importantly, I forgot to put this in room proctor, and importantly, is support for Q&A. Because like one of the things we need to do in the big room is when we do Q&A, somebody needs to run microphones to audience members. And if you are room proctor, that is you. So it's a little bit different if you're in the big room compared with the other rooms. So other questions? I'm going to get out of this so I can actually see things and stop sharing. So other questions?
Yeah, basically, do we have a presentation for the sessions for the rooms that hang in there in between? So like when there's no.
Oh, you mean like a placeholder slide?
Yeah, we did this in Paris.
I haven't created one. Somebody should create one.
I can create one when
that's
I'm.
not in anybody's role handbook, so it wasn't anybody's job.
Yeah, I created them in Paris, so I will create them and then just share them in the Slack channel, and then someone can talk to the RB people and say like, hey, can you pull up this presentation and show it in between?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Nabarun?
So are the breakout sessions going to be recorded as well?
Which sessions?
The breakout ones, not the general ones, the other ones?
Only the one in the main room. We only have video recording in the big room. So anything that is not in the 254 is not recorded.
Okay.
Marco?
Yeah, I have one question about the get together on Sunday. Is that only for staff members or also for volunteers who are supposed
Also
to be
for
there?
volunteers. Also,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, you don't have to. You are invited to be there as a volunteer because that gives you a chance to see the actual physical layout of the space.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. Plus meet the other volunteers and everything else, because on Monday morning, because of the timing with registration, we're not going to have a chance to get together as a team before we have to assume our positions. So kind of for the people who could make it on Sunday afternoon, that will be our one chance to actually get together as a team before the summit starts. Any other questions, thoughts, advice to everyone from people who've done this before?
How scary is room proctoring, I guess? It's like there seem to be a lot of responsibilities, but also we need them, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really. I mean, mostly it's about timekeeping is the big thing, right? Because that's the big thing that happens is that people tend to run over time. And for ones that are discussion sessions, as in SIG meetings and unconference sessions, making sure that a session leader shows up and making sure that somebody's taking notes. And by the way, the somebody taking notes could be you as room proctor, but it doesn't have to be you. So don't assume that you need to take notes. The goal there is to make sure that someone is taking notes. And for a SIG meeting, it's probably better that somebody who's actually involved with that SIG take notes, because they're going to follow the discussion better. Anyone else? Okay. Wow, ending this one on
Kevin
time,
has
which
his
is
hand
a
up.
problem. Oh, Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, I was curious when I think I added myself as a proctor for the unconference sessions. Do we know when those are released, which ones they are?
When's final selection?
Yeah, the final selection is after the lunch break. Then we fill them up, then we basically put them in chat, and then you can see them in chat. And usually we fill biggest room to smallest room based on the number of votes. So first go in, of course, the ones with the most votes. But you can already look at the unconference issue. You already see tendencies where it's moving. I mean, people can vote on the day itself, but yeah, there are already votes in.
Sorry, where is the link of the unconference?
Let me pull this out.
That actually does bring up one thing for the room proctors, particularly for the unconference sessions and that sort of thing, is if the way the unconference sessions fall out, you really, really want to swap with another room proctor. Because an unconference session that you really care about is in the wrong room for the different room than you're stationed in. You can do that, just make sure to do it over the group Slack so that everyone knows about the swap.
I put in the link to the issue in the notes. And we already have more proposals than slots.
Yeah. Yeah, this is actually, we have a lot more. We have probably about 3 times as many proposals as we have slots. So this will be a selective unconference session, unlike a lot of the others. So yeah. Okay. Okay, well, thanks everybody. Thank you so much for volunteering to help with the Contributor Summit. And I'll see all of y'all in Salt Lake City either on Sunday or, well, and definitely during the day on Monday. And thanks so much for helping make the Contributor Summit happen. And this will be fun. It'll be fun. Yeah. I realize we talk a lot about duties and specifics and everything else, but that's because I want you to be prepared. Don't forget, this is the Contributor Summit, and you know, it's a chance for you to hang with all of your Kubernetes besties and stuff, and volunteering doesn't prevent you from doing that. So see you there.
Excited.
Safe travels.
Bye,
folks.
Bye.
Bye.